1. Depression. It's not just feeling sad for a few days. When someone has depression, they don't just have a bad week. Their entire daily life quietly collapses in ways most people never notice. They wake up exhausted even after sleeping 12 hours, then spend the whole day in bed doom scrolling on their phone while the world keeps moving. Simple tasks like brushing their teeth, replying to a text, or making food feel completely overwhelming, like trying to climb a mountain with no energy left. They cancel plans at the last minute with weak excuses, ghost friends and family who care about them, and force fake smiles at work or school while their mind is screaming inside. At social gatherings, they sit quietly in the corner, nodding along but barely speaking because forming sentences feels impossible. They say, "I'm fine," or "I'm just tired," even when they're breaking apart. Hobbies they once loved? Completely abandoned. They might laugh at a joke, but feel nothing. Appetite disappears, or they binge eat to feel something, anything. Nights are the worst. They lie awake replaying every failure while the guilt and hopelessness crush them. The scariest part? Many hide it so well that even their closest people have no idea they're fighting for their life every single day. Depression doesn't just steal happiness. It steals motivation, connection, and the ability to function like a normal human being. If you've seen any of these behaviors in someone you love, or in yourself, you're not alone. 2. Anxiety disorders. It's way more than just feeling nervous before a big meeting. When someone lives with anxiety disorders, their brain is stuck in permanent fight or flight mode, and it completely changes how they move through everyday life. They overthink every single message before sending it, rewriting text 10 times and still worrying they said the wrong thing. Social plans that sound fun to everyone else feel like walking into a lion's den. So they cancel last minute with excuses like, "I'm not feeling well," or simply ghost. Their heart races over small things, a phone call, an email, or even making eye contact with a stranger at the grocery store. You'll notice them constantly fidgeting, picking at their nails, bouncing their leg, or twisting their hair. They rehearse conversations in their head for hours, imagining every possible worst-case scenario. Sleep becomes impossible because their mind won't shut off, replaying the day's mistakes on repeat. They avoid new experiences, stick to rigid routines, and say no to opportunities because the fear of failure or embarrassment feels unbearable. At work or school, they might seem quiet and withdrawn or overly perfectionistic, triple-checking everything because one small mistake feels like the end of the world. They smile and nod while inside, they're panicking that everyone is judging them. Anxiety doesn't just make people worry. It traps them in a cage of constant fear that slowly steals their freedom, relationships, and joy. 3. Bipolar disorder. It's not just mood swings. Bipolar disorder turns a person's life into extreme emotional roller coasters that dramatically change how they behave from one week to the next. In their manic or hypomanic phases, they suddenly become unstoppable. They text you at 3 a.m. with grand ideas, talk a mile a minute, start 10 new projects at once, spend money they don't have on things they don't need, and feel like they can conquer the world. Sleep? They barely need it, running on pure energy for days. They're charismatic, funny, and full of life until the crash comes. Then the depressive phase hits like a truck. The same person who was life of the party disappears completely. They stop replying to messages, cancel everything, stay in bed for days, and struggle to even get up to shower or eat. Motivation vanishes. The grand plans from last week now feel pointless and stupid. They isolate themselves, speak very little, and feel overwhelming guilt for letting everyone down. Friends and family often feel confused and whiplashed. One moment, the person is super affectionate and energetic. The next, they're cold, distant, or completely unreachable. They might make impulsive decisions during mania that destroy relationships or finances, then spiral into deep regret during depression. Bipolar doesn't just affect mood. It rewires their energy, decisions, sleep, and ability to maintain stable relationships. Many hide it so well that outsiders only see the chaos without understanding the real battle happening inside. 4. Schizophrenia. It's far more than the Hollywood version of split personality. Schizophrenia quietly hijacks how a person perceives reality, and the changes in their behavior can be heartbreaking and deeply confusing to those around them. They start hearing voices that no one else can hear, voices that criticize them, command them, or comment on their every action. These hallucinations feel completely real, so they suddenly stop in the middle of conversations, tilt their head as if listening to someone, or argue with empty space. Paranoia takes over. They become convinced that friends, family, or even strangers are plotting against them. Trust evaporates overnight. You'll notice them becoming socially withdrawn. They stop going out, avoid eye contact, and speak much less than before. Their once organized thoughts become disorganized. Sentences drift off. They jump between unrelated topics or give answers that don't quite make sense. Personal hygiene often suffers. They might wear the same clothes for days or neglect basic self-care because the voices and delusions drain all their energy. During severe episodes, they can appear completely detached from reality, laughing or crying for no apparent reason, or expressing bizarre beliefs like believing they have special powers or that the TV is sending them secret messages. The scariest part for loved ones? The person they knew seems to slowly disappear behind a wall of symptoms, leaving confusion, fear, and helplessness in its wake. Schizophrenia doesn't just distort thoughts. It rewires perception, trust, and the ability to function in daily life. 5. Obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD. It's not just being a neat freak or liking things organized. OCD hijacks the brain with intrusive thoughts that refuse to leave, forcing people into exhausting rituals that control their every move. Someone with OCD might be tormented by the constant fear of harming their loved ones, contaminating their family with germs, or causing some terrible accident. These thoughts feel violent and terrifying, even though they would never act on them. To silence the anxiety, they perform compulsions, washing their hands until the skin cracks and bleeds, checking that the stove is off 47 times before leaving the house, or repeating certain words or prayers in their head until it feels right. You'll see them avoid touching door handles, rearrange objects until they're perfectly aligned, or count steps obsessively. Simple tasks like leaving the house or going to bed can take hours because the rituals must be completed exactly right. They hide it from others by doing compulsions in secret or making excuses for why they're running late again. Relationships suffer because they constantly seek reassurance. Are you sure you're not mad at me? Or push people away to protect them from their own intrusive thoughts. The mental exhaustion is brutal. Their brain never rests, always scanning for danger or demanding perfection. OCD doesn't just make life messy. It turns everyday activities into mental torture sessions that steal hours, peace, and freedom. Many suffer in silence for years because they're ashamed of the thoughts they can't control. 6. Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. It's not just bad memories. PTSD rewires the nervous system so that the trauma never truly ends. The brain keeps replaying the horror as if it's happening right now, turning ordinary life into a minefield. A sudden loud noise, a certain smell, or even a similar tone of voice can trigger intense flashbacks. In those moments, the person isn't just remembering, they're reliving the event. Their heart races, they break into a sweat, they freeze or lash out as if they're back in danger. They avoid anything that reminds them of the trauma, certain places, people, movies, or even conversations. Sleep becomes a battlefield. Nightmares pull them back into the trauma night after night, leaving them exhausted and terrified to close their eyes. They become hypervigilant, constantly scanning the room for threats, jumping at small sounds, or sitting with their back to the wall so no one can sneak up on them. Emotionally, they shut down. They feel numb, detached from loved ones, and struggle to feel joy or love. Irritability spikes. Small frustrations trigger explosive anger. Many turn to alcohol or isolation to cope, pushing away the very people who want to help. The worst part? They often feel broken or weak for not being able to just get over it, even years later. PTSD doesn't just affect the mind, It hijacks the body and relationships, making everyday life feel unsafe and exhausting. 7. Borderline personality disorder, BPD. It's not just being too emotional. BPD creates intense, unstable emotions that cause dramatic shifts in how people behave toward themselves and others, often leaving relationships in chaos. One moment, they idealize you as the most amazing person in the world, showering you with affection, deep conversations, and constant attention. The next moment, a small perceived slight, a delayed reply, or a slightly off tone, triggers overwhelming fear of abandonment. Suddenly they switch. They push you away, accuse you of not caring, or explode in anger. Then comes the crushing guilt and frantic efforts to pull you back. You'll see rapid mood swings multiple times a day. They might text obsessively when they feel close to you, then go silent or send angry messages when they feel rejected. Self-harm or suicidal threats can appear during intense episodes as a way to cope with the unbearable emotional pain. Many describe feeling empty inside, like there's a void nothing can fill. Relationships become a roller coaster, intense closeness followed by sudden distance. They struggle with a shaky sense of identity, frequently changing jobs, hobbies, or even how they see themselves. Impulsive behaviors like reckless spending, substance use, or risky sex often follow the emotional storms. The terrifying part for them is feeling out of control of their own emotions, while loved ones feel confused and emotionally exhausted. BPD doesn't just affect feelings. It turns relationships and self-image into a daily battlefield. 8. Eating disorders. When someone battles an eating disorder, their entire daily existence begins to revolve around food, body image, and control in ways that quietly destroy their health and relationships. They meticulously count every calorie, weigh themselves multiple times a day, and stand in front of the mirror criticizing every inch of their body. Meals become sources of extreme anxiety rather than nourishment. You might notice them pushing food around their plate, making excuses to skip family dinners, or disappearing to the bathroom right after eating. Some hide food, secretly binge in the middle of the night, then purge or exercise excessively to undo it. Social plans get canceled if food is involved. They wear baggy clothes to hide their changing body and avoid situations where their eating habits might be noticed. Conversations often circle back to dieting, weight, or healthy food rules, even when everyone else has moved on. Energy levels crash, making simple tasks feel exhausting, yet they push through intense workouts driven by guilt and fear. Behind closed doors, the mental torment is relentless. Constant thoughts about food dominate their mind, leaving little room for joy, friendships, or hobbies. They lie to loved ones about what they ate or how they're feeling, isolating themselves further as shame takes over. Eating disorders don't just change eating habits. They consume a person's thoughts, energy, and self-worth, slowly stripping away their physical health and connection to the world around them. 9. Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, ADHD. ADHD doesn't just mean being easily distracted. It fundamentally changes how a person navigates daily life, turning simple routines into constant battles with their own brain. They start 10 different tasks with huge enthusiasm, but rarely finish any of them. You'll see them jumping from one project to another, leaving a trail of half-done chores, unfinished emails, and abandoned hobbies. Time management feels impossible. They're chronically late, underestimate how long things take, and often miss deadlines despite genuinely trying. Conversations can be chaotic. They interrupt others mid-sentence because their mind races ahead or zone out completely while someone is talking, only to snap back and feel embarrassed. Forgetfulness is constant. Keys, wallet, appointments, and even important dates slip through the cracks. At home, their space often looks messy because organizing feels overwhelming. Emotionally, they experience intense rejection, sensitive dysphoria. A small criticism or perceived failure can trigger overwhelming shame and self-hatred that lasts for hours or days. Many adults with ADHD describe feeling like they're constantly failing at basic adulting, leading to low self-esteem and frustration. Sleep is another struggle. Their racing thoughts make it hard to wind down, so they stay up late, then struggle to wake up in the morning. Impulsivity shows up in blurting things out, impulsive purchases, or risky decisions made in the heat of the moment. ADHD doesn't just affect focus. It rewires motivation, emotional regulation, time perception, and the ability to follow through on intentions. These 9 mental disorders don't just exist in medical books. They're quietly reshaping how millions of people think, feel, and act every single day. Many suffer in silence, while the world sees only the surface. If any of these descriptions hit close to home for you or someone you love, know that help is available and you're not alone. Which disorder surprised you the most? Drop the number in the comments and share one behavior you recognized. Like and subscribe for more eye-opening explanations. See you in the next one.